Hi everybody, how are you? Welcome one more time to IELTS Lunchtime with Fabi. Okay, so every Monday and every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Brisbane time, I'm here to help you with your IELTS writing, okay? And the reason we talk about writing is because it's the part of the exam that most people have problems with, all right? And also, we focus on the 7, okay? So a lot of people sometimes struggle to get the so desired 7, all right? So these lives are to help you get the 7 in writing. Okie dokie. So yeah, so I don't know if you managed to catch the ones from last week, okay? So on Monday last week, we talked about the type of English that you need to get your 7+, okay? It was very general, okay, so the type of English that you need in general. And then on Wednesday, it was pretty cool. We talked about linking words, okay? So the linking words are very, very important, all right? So if you want to catch that live and learn more about the linking words and how you can improve your writing and finally get your 7, all right, you can go ahead and go to YouTube. Okay, so it's already available on YouTube. I think the name is Linking Words. Okay, the name of the video there is Linking Words. Okie dokie. So let me tell you a bit of what's happening this week. So today we're gonna talk about vocabulary, all right? I don't know if you checked out the email I sent talking about all the lives this week. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about vocabulary. All right, and then next week, let me just double check here. Yes, and on Wednesday, we'll be talking about the structure of the writing, okay? And pretty cool stuff happening this week too. On Thursday at 7:15 p.m., Thursday the 24th of June at 7:15 p.m., I will be delivering a workshop. Okay, so as I said before, our live last week was about the type of English that you need to get a 7+ in IELTS writing, all right? But on Thursday, we're gonna have a full workshop only talking about the type of English that you need to get a 7+, all right? So it's not gonna be a live, it's gonna be a real lesson, a workshop, okay? If you can't attend, of course, you can watch the video later, but the cool thing about attending the lesson is that you can ask questions. All right, and then you can ask me anything and I'll answer it. Okie dokie. So if you want to join, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be below. If you're watching this on Facebook, same thing, the link will be in the description. All right, but if you're watching this on Instagram, the link will be in the bio. All right, okay. So let's get started today. So today we'll be talking about the types of vocabulary that you might have in the IELTS test, more specifically in the writing part of the exam, okay? I'll talk a little bit about the general types of vocabulary that you might find, but my focus today will be the type of vocabulary that you will find in the writing. If you go to Google, let's say, and write IELTS topics, all right, you're gonna find so much stuff. Okay, and one question that students always ask me is, Fabi, what's going to be on the test? All right, what topics, what are they gonna ask me about? And I say, I don't know. There are some things that I can think about, but honestly, I don't know because they always change. All right, okay, so what I thought about doing today, what I'm going to share with you guys today, the topics, okay, that I'm going to share with you guys today concerning the vocabulary you need to learn to get a good score, okay? The topics I'm going to share with you today are based on the topics that I've shared with my students in the last 2 weeks, okay? Because as I said before, if you go over to Google, okay, and ask Google the types of topic, you're gonna get a very long list, okay? And maybe some of those things, they are not very accurate, okay? Or they are a little bit too general, and then you actually don't know where to start. So what I thought about doing today, I'm going to share with you the topics that I've helped my students with in the last 2 weeks, okay? So with my students, when it comes to IELTS, okay, I always use the same book, actually the same book collection, the same book type for full tests, okay, which is, ta-da, this one here. Oh, it's, okay. All right, so I think you can see it's IELTS, Cambridge for IELTS, okay, guys? So some of the books, they have the academic and the general one, and some, they are combined, okay? But I always use these ones with my students because to me, they are the most authentic ones, okay? So all the people who study with me, okay, they do these practice tests and then they go and they do the real test. What happens is they actually get the same scores they were getting when they were practicing. And they tell me, they said, wow, Fabi, the test wasn't more difficult than the tests we have been doing. They are actually the same. And I'm like, yay. All right. So the reason I recommend these books is because they are extremely authentic, okay? Because sometimes, depending on the type of materials you choose, you might get tests that are too hard, right? And then you do it, and then you go and do the test, the real test, and you think that real test was easier. Or you could also have the other way around. You could grab a book where the format is a little bit different. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier. And then when you go and you do the real test, all right, you don't get a good score, okay? So my suggestion, this book, amazing, all right? So the topics I'm going to discuss with you guys today, they are about the topics I've shared with my students the past 2 weeks, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about listening, speaking, and reading, but then we're going to focus on writing because that's why we're here, okay? So for example, in listening, and again, you are aware of the fact that listening and speaking, they are the same for academic and general tests, whereas reading and writing, they're different, but we're going to talk about both, okay? So this week, when it comes to listening, one of the parts of the listening was talking about hobbies, okay, and they were also talking about traveling. So that's a very common topic actually in listening part 1, okay, talking about traveling topics. And then one thing that has become more common, I think, and we had 2 parts of the test in which we had this topic, was business. Okay, so there was a lot talking about business, especially in part 4, which is really interesting. So what I've seen recently was basically students who study business discussing business issues. All right, and that's usually part 4 in the listening. Okay, and what is very common too is to find maps in the part 2, okay, in listening again. All right, so it's very common to find some maps, and so you have to be aware. So when it comes to maps, you say, but Fabi, maps. And it's like, yeah, you have to be aware of right, left, okay, north, south, east, west. Okay, so that's the kind of vocabulary you have to think about. When it comes to speaking, this week we had a very cool class, and we talked about health. So the first section was talking about health, and they were asking questions about what do you do to improve your health? What do you do when you're sick? Okay, so that's a common topic too. There is one that I find quite interesting, and some students, they struggle with. There is one in which they talk about laughing, okay? Laughing. So as you can see, guys, I'm being very specific here because I do feel that sometimes when you look up what kind of vocabulary do I need to get a good score on the IELTS test, it tends to be general. So my intention here is to be quite specific, all right? So laughing. Yes, one of the questions was something like, what makes you laugh? Are you good at making other people laugh? All right, so that's for speaking, okay? And speaking part two, speaking part two that I did last week with some students was talking about waiting. Yeah, so the topic was, it was part two, right? So talk about a time in which you had to wait for something or for someone. All right, so I bet that this topic is not on the list that you will find, okay, online. All right, so yeah, so waiting. Okay, so that's one topic that you might get, all right? Another one that I think is pretty cool, but some students, they have problems with, is one in which they have to share an idea that they had to help in a school or work environment. All right, so that's another one that is quite interesting too, because some students, they say, oh my God, I don't know. Okay, and then some people tend to talk about work, but it's cool that they say it can also be about school, because if you're not working at the moment, you're a student, you can also talk about it. All right, and of course, as you already know, okay, when it comes to speaking part two, the questions in speaking part three, they are related to the same topic. All right, so as I said before, one of the topics for part two was about waiting. Okay, waiting for something or for someone. And then you have to make a decision, and you talk about it for 2 minutes. And then questions in section 3, they were very interesting because they talked about being patient. All right, so the questions were about being patient. And then the other, because they usually have 2 sets of questions, right? In the other sets of questions, we're talking about arriving early. All right, so if you think about it, these topics, they are pretty cool topics. I don't think they're very difficult. But again, you have to be prepared to talk about it and talk as much as you can, right? And using very, very good vocabulary. Okie dokie. And then the one that talked about ideas, a new idea for work or school, they talked about how important is it to share your ideas, okay? Should teachers or employers encourage their employees or their students to share their ideas, all right? So it's a combination there of maybe business, work life, and also education. And that was for speaking, okay? And then reading, let me see my notes here. Yeah, so for reading, recently, there was one about, so in the general one, there was one very interesting talking about a city, okay? So describing a city and things you can do in the city, so that's general, all right? And then the other one was the map of a place and asking you to match some things. Okay, and one thing that's has become very common too, I feel, is business. So they usually talk about business in the reading part too. Okay, guys, and then when they talk about business, they usually have different focuses. All right, but it has become very common, especially in the general. Okay, and then when it comes to academic, as we already know, the last part of the reading general is academic. All right, so when it comes to academic, okay, recently, actually last week, we saw one text talking about history. Okay, we saw another one talking about science. All right, and then there was another one, which is quite common actually, talking about education. Okay, it was more about learning. Okay, how people learn, methods, okay? They really like to talk about bilingual people and how you learn languages. That's another one that's very common too, okay? And of course, the environment. They really like to talk about the environment, okay? And it's quite common actually for them in the reading part to describe a plant or to describe an animal and talk about something interesting about an animal. All right, so that's it, okay? So As I said before, our focus here today is writing, but I thought it'd be nice to share some of the topics that we see in the other parts of the exam because they also come in the writing part. Okay, so not the writing part, okay? So first of all, I'm gonna tell you the types that I've shared with my students recently in the last 2 weeks, okay? Then I'm going to tell you where you can find this type of vocabulary, all right? And then I'm going to tell you what is the best way to practice for this type of vocabulary. So on the day of the test, and you do your writing and all the words come to you very easily, because that's what we want, right? When it comes to vocabulary, okay? Cool, so I'm not gonna talk about task 1 a lot for general or academic, because task 1 is quite straightforward, okay? So if we think about task 1 in general, you have to write a letter, okay? And they usually have the prompts, so I don't think you need a lot of amazing vocabulary. And when it comes to academic, task 1 academic, you are given a lot of information. So basically you need to, of course, be able to share some of our ideas, have some ideas, of course, but then you should also be able to, oh, hi Katya, hi. All right, but you should also be able to go ahead and use the information that's there already. Okay, so today the focus will be the type of vocabulary that you need for task 2. Okay, and guys, if you have any questions, just pop the questions, okay? I'll probably get to it at the end, all right? But just feel free to pop the questions in there, okay? Cool, so one topic that I shared with some of my students last week, it was relatively easy. They didn't have a lot of problems with that, was traveling. Okay, so most of the time they will talk about traveling. Of course, the approach to the topic can be different, all right? But just knowing good vocabulary that you can talk about traveling. So you can, instead of saying airplane, you can say a flight. Okay, instead of saying cheap, you can say budget, on a budget. Oh, I travel cheap. Oh, you can say I travel on a budget. All right, so traveling is a topic that is quite common, okay? Another one that I shared with some students was the one talking about accommodation. All right, so yeah, where people live, choosing where to live, okay, that kind of thing. That was more for general. And one topic actually that kind of overlaps, and you have this topic you will have a lot in academic in general, is education. All right, and most people, they don't have a lot of problems with this one, but the reason I think it's important to think about it is because, as I said before, you can find it in academic in general, and there are so many different types of approaches when it comes to education, okay? And a recent one that was quite interesting, because some students, they had quite strong opinions about it, I think was one concerning whether it's a better idea to have schools only for boys or only for girls, or mixed schools. So you have to discuss that. All right, so yeah, so that's education, but a different approach. And then there was another one that was academic. Okay, again, the topic was education, and you had to discuss whether people are born with talents or they can learn a talent. All right, so check this out, right? And again, it's just education, but the approach is a little bit different. And just imagine that. Some people are born with talents, while others learn it. So is it really possible to learn? Do you really have to be born with it? So that's a task 2, right? Quite interesting, right? And again, the whole idea here, guys, is for me to share some of the things that are possible, and then to think about how can we find good vocabulary, practice them, and then on the day of the test, just write it, okay? So, oh yeah, another one was about work satisfaction. Yeah, so basically, how happy are people at work? Quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah, cool. All right, so I just told you the types that are common, okay? The types that I've seen myself recently with my students, okay? And we practice that, all right? So then, once we know the types that are common, okay, and as I said before, guys, my approach here is being very, very specific, okay? Like I said before, if you look it up, you will find people talking about, oh, education, oh, environment, oh, this or that. So today here I'm trying to be very, very specific, just so you know exactly what kind of things you might get on the day of the test, okay? So we talked about the types. Now, where can you find these ideas? All right, so where can we find it, okay? So the first place you should go, maybe, it's a vocabulary book, okay? With my students, I use a book called Vocabulary for IELTS. Easy to remember. Very specific. All right, so it's a book talking about the common types of things that you might find on the test, right? So it's called Vocabulary for IELTS. It's a Cambridge book, okay? I'm not sponsored by Cambridge, by the way. I just really, really like their books. I think they're pretty good, and I tend to use them all the time. So if you grab a book or any vocabulary book, okay, you probably have the table of contents, and then you can choose what you're gonna go for and study. The good thing about books is that they usually have whatever they're trying to share with you. They have, sometimes they have a listening, sometimes they have a text, some explanation, and then they have activities. So if you're the kind of person that likes doing activities, best option, okay? And grab the book, Grammar for IELTS, pretty good. Grammar, no, vocabulary. There's one also called Grammar for IELTS, but the one we're talking about today is Vocabulary for IELTS, okay? Another thing you can do, which some people like, while others don't like that much, is watching documentaries, okay? So documentaries, again, they tend to be about specific topics, right? And they tend to use a type of vocabulary that is a bit more advanced and a bit more academic. So if you want a 7+, that's what you should be focusing on. Okay, so watching documentaries, Netflix series, yes, they help you, but if you want a 7+, I suggest watching some documentaries. Of course, choose some topics that you like, all right? And then TED Talks. TED Talks are so cool. I really like TED Talks because you learn heaps from them too. It's like watching a documentary, all right? So TED Talks also. I don't know if you have been to the website, but on the TED Talk website, you can actually choose the topics. You can choose how long you want it to be. All right, so TED Talks is something else that you can do. And reading the news is always helpful too, okay? So these are the places you can go to grab vocabulary. Vocabulary books, watching documentaries, watching TED Talks, and reading the news. So these are very common things that you can do to get vocabulary. Okie dokie, cool. Then, how do you practice? Okay, and that's, I think, the hardest part for a lot of people, because I have a lot of students who say, I watch a lot of stuff, I read a lot of stuff, but my vocabulary is still pretty bad. So what can you do? Okay, when it comes to books, like I said before, okay, if you grab a book that is specific for vocabulary, all right, my suggestion is explore the text or the listening that comes with it. Try to explore the vocabulary with the explanations or Cambridge Dictionary and do the activities. All right. Usually most books will come with the answer at the back. Check the answers, okay? Maybe share with someone, okay? So just going ahead and practicing that might help you heaps too. Okay. When it comes to documentaries and TED Talks, things that you watch, okay? So I think the best thing to do could be actually to watch things, take notes, and look up the words later, okay? And then maybe making some sentences. That's also quite helpful, okay? So maybe I'm gonna do a live only on how to practice vocabulary. I'll do that, yeah. So, but overall, that's what you have to do, guys. You grab the new word, look up in the dictionary. My suggestion is Cambridge Dictionary, and then you try to make a sentence with it and revise it when you can, okay? And then, oh my God, the best way, okay, to practice vocabulary for the IELTS exam is by using the IELTS exam to practice. Okay, so a lot of people, they ask me for extra materials, extra stuff, but do you have any idea how rich the test that you're using to practice is? Okay, and again, when you're doing the test, you see all those words you don't know, all those or all those words that you know but you never use, and then you're doing the test and you think about it, and then you finish the test, check your score, close the piece of paper, and never look at it again. No. That's not cool, okay? I personally think that the best way to study vocabulary for the IELTS is by using the test itself, okay? So, if you are exploring the writing, of course, can be a bit difficult because you have to produce the writing, okay? But you can always ask the person who's checking your writing for you to give you better ideas. And that's exactly what we talked about last week. Better options, better words, more academic words, more sophisticated words. All right, so that's a way of practicing. You have something there, which is a 6. Ask your teacher, ask your tutor, hey, what do I have to say instead of this to get a 7? And that's what we will be discussing on Thursday in the workshop, okay? So this is a 6, what is a 7? Okay, cool, so that's one thing. And I think another thing that you can try is using the reading, okay? Oh my God, the reading sometimes has so many new words, so many words that are different, or so many words that you think about using but you never use, okay? So you don't even have to invest in a book, all right? If you want, it's a good idea, of course, but just using the reading itself, okay? So you go ahead, you read. So of course, we don't stop and look up words when we are practicing the test, okay? But it's totally okay to go back to it after, okay? So as soon as you finish the reading test, check your score, go back, read again, highlight the new words, okay? Do all of these things and you will see your improvement, okay? Do you guys have any questions? I talked a lot. Oh my God. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions about writing, about vocabulary? Okay. So yeah, so I think that a lot of people, they overlook the reading. Okay. And it's funny because a lot of people come to me and they complain, oh, Fabi, that reading had so many new words. Oh my God, it was so difficult. And they complain. And then, but let's think about that. Instead of complaining, why don't you use it to your advantage? And you go, oh my God, there are so many new words here. Yay, I'm gonna learn so much once I'm finished with this. Okay, so just maybe changing the way you look at new words or words you don't know, because the first time you look at a word, maybe you don't know them, but then if you explore them, then you start to learn more about it, okay? And you learn heaps of new words, and then you can have an amazing piece of writing, okay? So no questions today? No? I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about what's happening this week again, and then you can pop questions if you have any, okay, about IELTS writing 7+, okay? So yeah, so if you need help with the writing, okay, especially with the structure, head to my website. Oh, Katja, no worries. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Katja. Stop by anytime. Okay, so yeah, guys. So if you need help with IELTS Writing Task 2, and if you're having problems, especially with the structure, head to my website, fabienglish.com. Okay, www.fabienglish.com. Okay, and over there you find a free mini course to help you with the structure for IELTS Writing Task 2. Okay, so that's one thing that we have available there, and it's free. And something else that is free is the workshop on Thursday. Okay, so on Thursday, the 24th of June 2021 at 7:15 p.m. Brisbane time, I will be delivering a workshop talking about the type of English that you need to get a 7+ in IELTS writing. Yay, cool, Katja, woohoo. Exciting, yay. I'm gonna send you a message later, Katja. All right, cool. So yeah, so on Thursday, so we have the workshop. It's gonna be pretty cool, okay? Lots of people have already signed up, all right? And again, if you can't attend it, I will send you the link with the replay, okay? But if you can come, it's the best because you can ask questions. All right, guys, so that's the most important thing, okay? So attending is pretty cool. But if you can't attend it, no problem, okay? So if you're watching this on Instagram, the link is in the bio. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, the link is in the description. All right. Oh, thank you, Katja. Okay. She says she loves my classes. Yay! That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right, okay. So I'm gonna head out now. If you guys don't have any questions. No questions today? No? All right, okay. So today we talked about the vocabulary, okay? Types of vocabulary that you can find in the IELTS writing, okay? Actually the IELTS exam in general, but more specifically IELTS writing. But I think that the most important thing now, guys, is to think about what can you do with these words, okay? So where can you find them? What do you do with them when you find them, and how you can practice. All right, so if you have any questions later, you know where to find me. You can send me an email, fabi@fabienglish.com too. All right, okay, but I'll see you on Wednesday, same time. Bye.